Hey guys, welcome back to the layout once again. I got you guys sitting up on a tripod right now, so I'm going to try to run through what I got to say pretty quickly so that way we can move around the layout some and I don't bore you to death. But anyway, in today's update, we're first going to start by talking about some lighting. As you can see, we're on the lower level here. This is the industrial side of the peninsula, and I basically have now lit the entire side here with one roll of LED strip lights. So I got this stuff, as you can see, this is kind of what it looks like. Got this stuff off eBay. It comes in kind of what looks like a film reel, and this is one single strand, which is 5 meters or approximately 16.5 feet, and I got all of that for $10. I also got a power source, which was around $5 or $6, so really cheap to do. And I was kind of skeptical at first because I was like, how can you light something legitimately for 10 bucks? I don't know how they do it, but somehow it's cheap. And I was really happy about that because I've looked elsewhere. There's some LED like strip lights from like legitimate companies, not like eBay distributors, that are asking about $150 for the same length here. And I don't know how their light output compares, but if you can see here, this is really, really bright. And again, for 10 bucks, it's worth it. If I want more light, I'll get another strip, and then it's only 20 bucks. Anyway, another thing to consider is the light color, and what I've done here is just gone for a pure daylight white. It might be kind of hard to tell on the video, but you don't really have, there's no like yellow warm hue to it, and it's not too blue or cool, so it's kind of right in the middle, which is what I wanted. It's really hard to tell right now since we don't have any scenery down how the scenery colors will show up, but once we get the backdrop on, or the backdrop painted, that'll kind of help set the stage. So I've been thinking actually maybe for the lower level that we do kind of an overcast day, so we have kind of like a light gray clouds in the background, and that'll kind of create a different environment, something a little different than just blue skies, which you see on most layouts. So anyway, that might drain a little bit of the color from the scenery, but that's what happens on cloudy days, so no big deal. Anyway, the other thing to consider, to point out, what I've done is instead of putting the strip light on the front edge of the benchwork, because what I was planning to do originally, as you can see here, this actually has a peel off sticky backing, and I was going to peel off the backing and then set that up just like there's a little lip here with my fascia, and I was going to put that on the leading edge of the benchwork. I decided against that, and what I've done instead is set the strip light just on top of the benchwork. So we have 1x4 grid benchwork up here, and all along here underneath our scenery base, I've just threaded that through and set it on top of the benchwork really close to the front edge, and that way any light that would have escaped into the hallway and onto the floor is now being reflected off the front board of the benchwork, and then it's also being reflected off of the cross members. If I want to get a little more reflection, I might go in with some like white gloss paper and cut that to fit on the inside of the benchwork, and that'll really help enhance the effect that we have already, which is reflecting a lot of that light onto the backdrop. So we have a really even light. It's not like there's no gradients of like shadow to light down here. It's just very, very even lighting, which is definitely something that I was hoping to get. So another thing I want to point out really quick about lighting is, as you can see, the overhead lighting I have here is very warm, and the video is kind of compensating for that. But if you look at my other videos and any shots that I've taken around the layout, you can see it's pretty yellow. Your mind kind of like cancels it out, but what I'm gonna do is replace all the room lighting you see here, which is actually it's the primary lighting source for the upper level. I'm gonna replace that with some daylight white LEDs as well, and those will be super bright. And my hope is that any shadow that would have existed on the front edge here, I turned the lights off, but for like that closest track, the lighting that's on it's like housed in the upper level, it's kind of tough for the light to get there. So I'm hoping that when I upgrade the room lighting, that'll kind of balance out everything, and that way we won't have kind of A, we'll get rid of that contrast in color, and B, we will make sure that we have even lighting all around, not only for the back towards the backdrop, but also on the front edge of the lower level here as well. Alright, so another thing that I want to talk about really quick is the upper level scenery. So nothing finished yet, but something that I mentioned in one of my older videos was how I'm using painter's paper as the primary scenery base. So as you can see here, I've started to fill in the gaps between the sub-roadbed and the fascia out front. And you can see as I kind of pan how the scenery profile changes with the fascia. So obviously you can't see on the other side of that fascia right there, but on the other side of that is a nice little rock cut. And coming around the corner here out front, it drops back down again, and then it comes around this horseshoe curve here until right there, which is where I've stopped for now. But anyway, that kind of gives you an idea of like how the paper looks when it's installed. And what's nice is that it creates a really nice, just kind of uniform finish in the meantime before we actually get some scenery down. And it's a really smooth contour in the sense that like I don't have to put in a lot of work carving foam and stuff to get that. That's really just paper. It takes me like 10 minutes, well, more than that, but you know, per 4-foot sheet that I'm using, you know, it's only a couple minutes to glue it down and get the right contour. So what I'll do after this is paint over that with a full like undiluted coat of white glue. That'll harden and seal the paper, and then I'll go over it with either plaster gauze sheets or just paint over it with some plaster of Paris, and that'll kind of harden it and finalize the shape, and then I'll paint it, add scenery, and we'll be good to go. So anyway, that's the section that I've worked on over here, and that's really all I have down right now. But as you can imagine, I'm going to continue working, and depending on how things go, I might even use the paper technique for the other side of the sub-roadbed here, because on the far side of those tracks, we're actually going to have some really steep rock cuts, just like you'd see at Crawford Hill. So those might be easier to do with foam, but if I can get them to work with paper, then that'll be just as easy. So anyway, we'll see about that. Something else that's pretty nice to have done is the sub-roadbed back here for the engine facility. So you can see before I got it in, kind of over there where the lift-out section meets where the fascia starts, all that back there up against the wall was just kind of an empty void. So now, having that surface in there, we'll just go right ahead, start marking out where our tracks will go. You can see I have all the turnouts there. And once we get some more flex track, we'll lay down the tracks, and we also have our Walther's diesel house kit that we need to build. And we'll throw in a couple other buildings such as a yard office and a probably a little side car shop deal. And those buildings will probably go further down in this corner here. It's hard to tell from this angle, but our main line out front here is actually starting upgrade already. So by the time you get around the curve here, there's already about an inch to inch and a half difference in elevation there. But anyway, that just gives you kind of a sense of what it looks like and how it'll be to have some locomotive sitting back there. And finally, on this side of the layout, I've started to fill in this area with some foam. So originally I'd actually planned on having a sands loading transload facility down here with a couple tracks running to it, but we've changed our mind, and what we're going to do down here is actually just basically some straight scenery. As you can see, we've already marked out kind of where a road might go, so we're going to have a grade crossing here. Obviously there's quite a elevation difference between our foam down here and our sub-roadbed, so what we're going to do, using more foam of course, we're going to build this up to the sub-roadbed and track level here, and right in the middle it's going to kind of dip down. This road is then going to curve towards the backdrop, which I still have yet to put in, but when I do, we're going to do a cool little mirror trick here, which I'll cover in future videos. And if we do it at the right angle and the mirror's square to the road, it'll basically look like the road just goes on forever, which is kind of a cool effect. So we also plan on having over here, you know, kind of a little ridge, and we're going to have really dense trees down here. That way, if you're kind of standing where you guys are right now and looking this way, you're not really going to see that train come around the curve until it pokes out of the trees somewhere, you know, around this point in the curve. And that way we kind of create the illusion that it's still, you know, coming from somewhere down the line and running kind of in a more tangent fashion. And that, you know, that kind of deters the mind from reminding itself that the train's curving from the other side of the backdrop. So we'll get more into that once I get some more work done here. But this is really nice to have down because now we can just kind of play around with road placement, where we think we're going to have mounds and trees, and I'm going to have a lot of fun dealing with this scene down here. So anyway, guys, that's really all I have for this video. Just wanted to show you a few things I've been working on. I think I'm going to be back next weekend and in town, so I'm just trying to get done what I can get done with what I have, because I'm not back for long periods of time, and I don't have all the money in the world right now going to college, so I try to use up all the materials I have. Kind of seems like I'm doing things in an illogical fashion, which might be true, but as long as my work doesn't get in the way of other work that I need to do, it's no big deal. So while I'm starting to do some scenery work, I want to remind you that I haven't forgotten about the rest of the tracks. I need to get the yard in, need to do all the industries, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to. It's just that costs a lot more than construction paper, and it's kind of easy to fill that in. And I think doing that scenery, or the scenery base, not like really finished scenery, that really just kind of helps the layout come to shape, or shape up, I guess, and it helps me at least visualize what we're going to do. Anyway, everything that I've shown you today isn't yet complete yet, obviously, so I'm going to continue to work on that. Hopefully I'll get some more lighting in for next time, and when I have my next layout update, which will be soon, the layout's going to look a little better. So I'm just going to keep chipping away. I really appreciate you guys following along and watching, and continue to comment, and stay tuned for more videos.